Welcome, everybody. We're going to have fun tonight. We've got several authors who are going to talk to us about their book covers and the process they went through in putting them together, finding artwork or whatever that was involved. And I think that we're going to start tonight with Steve Lalonde. And Steve, I'm going to let folks go ahead and talk about their own work and what kind of things they're doing along with their presentation. So why don't you start us off?
Okay, good enough. Well, the first book that I did, or that I actually published, is a palette of verse, and it's a collection of poetry from over 4 decades, just samples from what I've done over the decades. And I really did that book more than anything to just learn all of the processes associated with publishing. And I worked closely with Russ at Grey Dog, and he was wonderful and walked me through the process. I fortunately do use InDesign, which is the program that they use. So he is able to talk me through that in preparing books. I've been doing all other kinds of projects, but not actually putting whole books together. So he walked me through that. When it came to the cover for the book, I was trying to keep costs way down. And so, Linda, do you want to show it, or do you want me to share, or what? You were muted, I think.
I have it on my screen, but maybe it didn't say screen share. There we go. Let me pull it up for you.
Okay.
Here we go. It's going to have all of your books together.
All right.
So are we okay now?
Yeah. So go ahead on palette of verse. There you go. And what I did with this particular one was I just used a program, a paint program called Desk Paint, and created the top portion through a layering process, and then downloaded a couple graphic elements from the free graphics online, and went ahead and put some lettering on the palette. And so this was just really to learn about the process of publishing and all the different pieces that are supposed to be in a book. So I did that one. And then the next book that I did was The Phoenix Gift. And I did 2 covers for that. Actually, the first cover, which is this one, which actually all the lettering is missing from this, because I grabbed the wrong file apparently. At any rate, this was the graphic that I downloaded from the internet, which was free, and it allowed me to put together kind of what I wanted. But for the second printing of the book, I went ahead and had my niece, who's a professional artist, prepare a Phoenix more what I had in mind. And so this is the second printing cover for The Phoenix Gift, which is a contemporary novel based in Spokane around 1996. And it was one that was outlined for 20 years, and I couldn't get to it to write it until I retired. And once I got retired, I got serious about the writing. So got the book written and got it published, and it's been out for 4 years, I think. And then the next book is Signing Up Kira. And Signing Up Kira, finally I'm in the genre that I really want to be in, which is historical fiction. I taught classical mythology for over the better part of 4 decades. And I wanted to deal with that time period, and I wanted to deal with mythology, but I didn't want it to be mythology. So this is an historical novel. It has one truly historical character, Sappho, who was a poetess and philosopher and what have you, a feminist who got into trouble for that and kicked off the island, quite literally. At any rate, this cover, I got my niece again. I gave her a picture that I had of a reconstructed Greek ship, and I told her I need it lengthened and made into a setting at a pier, and so that's what she came up with, and that is the cover for Signing of Kira. The next book, the most recent one I've published, is Mentu the Nubian. This cover was done by Stalder Publishing, and I've put in the chat area how you can contact Stalder Publishing. Christy Stalder is one of the members of my critique group, also a past student of mine, and she is a certified book coach, certified editor, and she has a bestseller book called Navigating Assisted Living. She worked for 11 years in the assisted living administration over here at Sullivan Park. And that book has taken off for her very well. She also has done one children's book, has another one in the process, and has 2 young adult novels that she's working on at this point. Meanwhile, she's having 4 babies and moving to near to Nasket, so she's keeping more than a little busy. So those are basically the covers that I've done. And the first ones were on the cheap. And after that, I started buying the covers to have them done. So that's it. That's basically all I have to say about covers.
That's great, Steve. Did everybody get to see the screen share? I want to make sure it was coming through okay. It's the first time I've done screen sharing, so forgive me if it gets messed up. I think I didn't do too bad there.
No, you did great.
Oh, wonderful. All I did was pulled photos in for everybody's benefit, whoever needs to do this in future. I pulled everything into Word docs, and laid it, just plunked them down on the page. Hi, Erin. Yeah, so I'm glad it works. Frank's gonna laugh at me. I'm sure he's, way beyond that. And everybody, Steve, I'm sure has done it himself too. But in any event, thank you. We're like a quarter after. So again, if you have any questions, type them into the chat. Just click on the chat button at the bottom if you need to use it, and you can put that in there. Steve, as he said, he's put in Christie's website address, so that if you want to check with her on her artwork and stuff. She could not be here tonight. So in any event, let's see, who should we do? Tabitha, do you feel comfortable going next? Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I do have your items available to, were you prepared or did you prefer to do your own screen share?
I can screen share.
Okay, because you can, all you have to do is, it's set for anybody to do it. Down at the bottom, there you go.
How's that look?
Yep, looks great.
You can hear me and see me?
I think so.
Okay, so yes, I'm very excited to share my cover. My book is called Valdez Rises, One Town Struggle for Survival After the Great Alaska Earthquake. So this is my first book that I've written. It's 350 pages. It's a historical nonfiction story about my former hometown, Valdez, Alaska. In 1964, the Great Alaska Earthquake struck the coast of Alaska, and Valdez was just 45 miles from the epicenter. So the town was devastated, but my book is not so much about the earthquake as about the 4 years that followed the earthquake, during which the entire town was built from scratch, a new town 4 miles away, and every single person, businesses, agencies, everything was moved. So my town is about the relocation, thus the title, Valdez Rises. So to the cover, most of the pictures that I had to use and that I kind of could consider drawing from for the cover, I thought were a little bit unattention getting. They were mostly black and white historical images. And so I also didn't have any great people pictures. And from my experience doing marketing and social media, like people pictures are really great for grabbing attention. So I went with what I thought was the next best thing, which was just a great scenic shot. So this shows the town of Valdez in contemporary times. This is the new town, 50 years later or more. It was taken in 2018 from a mountain above town. My husband actually just took the picture one day when we were hiking. So it's just a snapshot on his plain old camera. I mean, he takes good pictures, but it's not like a professional photograph. And I had been thinking about using this picture for some time just because it shows this park strip running through town and the primary original new town area. So I just thought it was really representative, and it had the beautiful mountains in the background. So I just thought it was good, and I thought it might catch some attention with the green and so on. And then I took all of this to Russ Davis, another fan of Grey Dog Press. He's just fantastic. And I don't know what the cost of the cover was separate from all of the interior design, but I thought the whole project was very reasonable, really reasonable for how much work really goes into it. So I showed him a few covers of picture of other books that I liked, and he did this. We did this cover with very little back and forth, like, I don't know, 3 times, and mostly it was just me like, hey, move my name down into the green a little bit further. So he really did a great job with it. And then I wanted to show you the back cover because I'm really fond of the back cover as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then share again real quick. So can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see this is the whole spread, the front, and the back. And I really love the back because while the front didn't give me very much opportunity to kind of hint at what interesting topics are inside the book, I think if someone was grabbed by the front, turned it around, then this might seal the deal for them and encourage them to buy it. So the old town was razed and burned. That's the shock factor picture at the top. And then I did find one people person that I really liked. This is a woman who was kind of a primary historical figure during this era, historical picture of the old town or the new town being built, and then a modern day town of one of the original buildings. So that is and I just thought I'd show you too. I showed Russ this picture, which I don't know if you can see this back very well. It's a Gold Rush historic book. I just kind of liked how they did the montage of pictures. And again, Russ just really did this design for me. I'm not a very artsy, graphically inclined person. So there you
go. I don't know, you might want to hold that book cover up again that you just showed. Yeah, because now that we don't have the, okay.
I know, hard with the reflection. You can just see there's like the older pictures kind of coming in from the sides, that I just thought that was kind of a cool idea that I took to Russ.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. And I'll repeat for folks that came in a little later, that if you have any questions or comments, please just add them to the chat area. If you click on the chat button at the bottom, that will open that up for you. And actually later I have it set so you can actually record the chat and take it with you. So at the end, you can save the chat, I should say. Well, let me see, where am I now? Dave, do you want to do yours now? I'm kind of going man, woman. I don't know if that's sex or what, but anyway.
Am I coming through?
Yeah, you are.
I'm all for it. Let's go for it.
Let me find your one here. I have to hit the share screen, and then I'll pull in your books. There we go.
Okay. I think that's the same one you got that I've got up as a background too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. I've actually got I actually made notes for this.
Cool.
So here we go. And I hope I don't take too long. And I hope I'm kind of on the same subject that everybody else was.
I think you
Sometimes-
are.
Sometimes a topic like this, I see it from a little different viewpoint or something.
Oh, well, that's
Finally,
about its viewpoints.
Yeah. So I'd like to start out and say that I'm happy to be a part of tonight's gathering, and I appreciate being invited to share thoughts regarding book covers and cover art. And I think one of the big advantages of being self-published is that we have the choice of what we do for our covers. Whereas in traditional publishing, that's usually the reserve of the publisher. So when I decided to self-publish, I looked at several ways of making a book cover using photos, whether our own or from a source of stock, public domain photos, putting together with one from column A and one from column B and coming up with a cover. But I realized my stories just wouldn't work with this. I needed something a little more unique. I needed to have a custom image. And I'm talking about the first book, Beyond the Ocean's Edge. And since I have some ability to paint, I decided I would try to create my own cover art.
Ooh.
Otherwise, I'd have to go find somebody and probably pay them and coach them and work with them to come up with something that I wanted. And I probably realized it back then. My first book came out in 2012. I realized that there's a number of requirements or situations that a cover should provide. But it wasn't until I sat and got ready to start doing this presentation that I realized or tried to kind of categorize what they were. First of all, I think a cover needs to catch the potential buyer's eye. Make him or her take a closer look, maybe take a longer look, and hopefully consider buying the book. Secondly, the cover art should relate to the story. So I'm writing Age of Sail Naval Adventure. So it's appropriate that my book covers have one or more sailing vessels on it. And the cover art needs to be authentic to the story. The Stone Island Sea stories take place in the early years of the 19th century. Thus, any vessels depicted should be from that era. Ships of other eras looked entirely different. And since the story is set basically in Europe or Europe-like areas, they should be of a European style. I don't have a need presently yet for any, say, junks or double-hulled dugout canoes from the South Pacific or anything like that. And it should reflect the story. In other words, I'm writing Age of Sail, early 19th century. I put a ship up there of the early 19th century, but it should be a ship from the story. I don't need another ship from the 19th century that doesn't fit into the story. I also believe cover art should not just be a picture or a portrait of the vessel or a person or a place or a building, but it should depict a scene or a moment from the story. All these cover illustrations are of a particular moment, a particular scene within the story. And one thing I do is find that scene and put it or an excerpt of it on the back cover as a part of the blurb. And I don't have anything for you to turn over and show that or anything, but that's, you just have to take my word for it, that that's part of the cover. And I also believe that a cover should, if possible, reflect or symbolize the title of the book. In the story, Beyond the Ocean's Edge, the schooner never actually sails over the edge as depicted. But at least one character at the scene that's depicted envisions that they're sailing amongst the stars. And that's kind of what I was trying to convey at that point in the picture. And there's another part in the story where someone remarks, or it's implied, that they realize that they've sailed beyond the ocean's edge. And for the second book, what could be more indicative of sailing dangerous waters than to depict the ship and our heroes apparently sailing in between two larger battling ships, whether in an attempt to break up the fight or to aid one or the other of the combatants. I try to include the title phrase, just kind of as a side note here, I try to include the title phrase somewhere in each story. It was a little tricky to do that, believe it or not, in the first two, but the expression Darnashian pirates comes up repeatedly in the third. It was no problem. And if we're battling Darnashian pirates, what better than to depict the movement the moment our ship comes alongside the pirate vessel, fires a final broadside, and prepares to board and capture it. Another perhaps notable feature of these covers is what I refer to as the banner. That's the part across the top or near the top of all the covers. It began as a small sketch or doodle, roughly a 3x4 inch ballpoint pen and colored pencil drawing. And my idea was to use that on a business card. Well, my daughter did some photoshopping and ended up with a couple of variations, including one which had the 4 pointed stars at each end. And it finally became a place to include the secondary or supplementary title of each book. And the 4 pointed star figures into the overall story as well. And I think in the middle book, right up near the top, you can see the little ship that I had drawn. Sometimes in the first book and in the third, it ended up not being there, which is fine with me. And as a quick kind of another side note, you look at the third book, Darnashian Pirates, you notice that the major ship there is flying a number of signal flags. I don't know if I set them up right or not, but they're supposed to say, read me. They're supposed to translate out to say, read me. I have a document on my computer that's all about the Admiral Popham's signal flags of 1808 or something like that. And I went through and I found how they code them. They go by letters, translate to numbers, like 1 is A, B is 2, like that. And anyway, it's supposed to say read me. And you guys be surprised to know that I'm down to like a half a page of my notes to go here, so I'm almost done. Okay, the original cover art was painted on acrylic on 8x10 inch canvas panels. I used the small size because it would fit into my scanner, which is how I got them to be able to go wherever they needed to for making the covers, printing the covers, being on ebooks or whatever. And the first two I created with the help of a self-publishing assistance company. But the third was done with a local individual who did the final editing and helped with formatting and the like, so I could publish via one of the online publishing services. And that's the story of the covers of the Stone Island Sea Stories. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave.
And before I mute and off, if you can see it, these are the images, if anybody can see them, of, oh, it's going to mess up with the background that I've got, so never mind. They're on my website and stuff, people can find them.
Yeah, why don't you type in, anybody that has a website here, why don't you type it in over there in the chat, and then people can go to that website and they can see a better. I apologize to Dave. He had sent some individual pictures, and in our discussions back and forth, I got confused, and he mentioned having this. I think he meant it just for his own background on screen, but I misunderstood and thought that's the one he wanted me to pick up and use for the to show on the share screen. So I apologize, Dave. I think if you see his real covers and his artwork, you'll see how much sharper and beautiful they are. So, hooray. Well, let me see now. Kathy, do you feel like doing yours now?
Sure, be happy to.
And you were going to do your own screen, or you want me to?
If you would bring them up, that'd be great.
Got it.
Appreciate that. And so I have two. The first book I self-published in 2018, and it's called Joy Unfolding, Messages for a Guarded Heart. And I guess that'll be coming up here in a second, but I've got it here. This was the book. It's like inspiration, devotional type messages for women. There was about 10, 11 women that I was, they were going through difficult times, and so I was writing to them each day, like encouragement from the Lord. And I realized I could put those together in a book. And so that's how this came about. So are you able to bring it up on the screen, or I don't see it yet?
Oh, that's my fault again. I apologize. I forget I have to hit share screen first.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Where did I put it?
Okay. And while it's coming up, I can tell you, this is a photograph that a friend of mine took. And in trying to decide what to do for the cover, I got into bookstores and realized how competitive it is, and how you really have to do something to stand out for someone to pick up your book. Actually, it could be quite overwhelming. And so my friend had posted some pictures he did on Facebook, and he had several of a peacock. And I can see if I can bring it up too.
Yeah, I'm having trouble here. Wait a minute. I just needed to scroll down. I've got so many things open that it's just freaking out. That's all right. There we go.
Okay, there it is. So yeah, so it's the first one, Joy Unfolding. And so I just contacted him and asked if I could use that for my book cover. I thought, the idea of unfolding, that it fit that. And I liked that it's very colorful. And another thing you can't see from here, what I did was also those peacock feathers carry over to the spine. So if it's on a shelf and set away, it's not just a solid color. I thought that may help to attract attention. But that's the first one I did using the photograph. And so that came together easily. And also the second one that just came out this year, Keep Walking, Your Heart Will Catch Up. This is a personal memoir about when I walked on Spain's Camino de Santiago in 2019. I went alone at age 64 after my husband had passed away, and kind of looking what to do with the next part of my life. And it ended up being a real spiritual journey for me. And so this is the book I'm promoting now and working with. And this is the photograph I took on my iPhone 7 while on that trip. And I hadn't intended to make a book at that point. And I was just fortunate that I guess the quality was good enough. I was happy with it for a book cover. And so that's how it came out. I did self-publishing with BookBaby, which I guess is kind of a hybrid publisher. And to get the cover artwork ready on both of these, I don't know how to do the mechanics of those programs, the software. So InDesign is what was used. And a friend of mine, also, I reached out to her to help me with that. And she did that. And so it's something I want to learn myself if I'm going to continue to do this type of thing. Because with the second one, there's a few changes I wanted to make on the back, but my friend didn't have time to really continue and work with that. So I went ahead, it still came out okay, but I would have made a few slight changes had I been able to control that. So that's kind of it. I'll put my website in the chat box.
Those are both very lovely covers, I think. Yeah.
Thanks.
That peacock is, yes, Stephen. Peacock is out of sight. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I just love that and how it came out.
Yeah, worked great. Well, let's see. We still have Erin and her artwork. Erin, did you bring any? I can't, you're gonna have to unmute to talk to me.
There,
You
how's
bring
that?
Artwork to show, or did you bring an actual cover that somebody?
I have some artwork that can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
By the way, okay. So I got a children's book published recently that my mother had, I should say, my mom wrote it and then I illustrated it for her. And so it was also it was about a little girl. And so I did all the little designs for it. So I don't know if you can see these okay or not, but
I'm changing it so just you are on the main screen. Okay,
no, what was that now?
the view, I changed it. Is everybody just seeing her in the middle now? No? If you change your view up above, up in the right corner to, no, you don't have to do anything, Erin.
Oh,
If
okay.
others change their view to speaker instead of full view, then you'll be able to see her art better. That's just up to you. Okay,
Okay, cool. So I work with a lot of different types of mediums. I do everything from acrylics to airbrushing. Right now, my the artwork I'm doing right now is murals, and because they're in people's houses, I can't show you. but it's hard to bring in a wall, you know. But you can always take a look at my artwork. You can go to Art by Erin Nelson, and I do everything. So these are just cute little cartoons, and I've done oh gosh, several cute little cartoons like this. Everything from the big bold stuff. I also do quite a number of fantasy work. So this is these are some. That's an alien piece that I did there. Some alien creatures, but. I've also done all sorts. Oh, here's another. This was another fan. This was for a friend who wrote a dragon story. So a couple of different forms of art there. And then right now I'm working on a comic book, and so I have again another style of artwork. This is one that's just coming out here. This is that's a comic book that will be with zombies, because you have to have zombies in a comic book. There's no other way to have comic books without zombies. So anyways, again, all different types of artwork, but that's just a few of my pieces. Yeah, I really enjoy doing it. I really like doing it. So
thank you.
yeah.
Putting it back on gallery now. Yay. And can you type in your contact place there in the chat on the side? If you hit chat button, do you have a keyboard with you that you can just down below? If you hit that chat thing, it'll open up on the side and you can type in your information, Erin.
Are you talking to me, Linda?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
If you
It's just,
find the chat button.
Art by Erin Nelson on Facebook.
And
There we go.
all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's always good for people to have contact points. Well, gosh, I think we're down to you, Frank. Are you all raring to go? He looks like I'm sitting back in my chair. I'm gonna take these.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can
Am I
hear
coming
you.
through all right?
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, I thought I would go through the my main series, River City series, and show you kind of the evolution of how it got where it's at now. So let me share screen here. Screen 2. So hopefully everybody is seeing this first book.
Yep, I know it
Yes.
well.
Okay. So the River City series is a police procedural series set in Spokane. Spokane is, River City's a thinly veiled Spokane. This book was published in 2006 by a small press in Georgia called Wolfmont Press. I didn't have a lot of input other than I told him I wanted something that was uniquely Spokane in on the cover, and of course the clock tower is pretty iconic, so he made a good choice there. I kind of liked the excuse me, the police officer and the badge image that are watermarked a little bit, or that are a little faded, but this was the first one, and it was interesting because it was not a standard size. It was 5x8 rather than 5.5 by 8.5 or 6x9. And the interior, incidentally, was double spaced, and between paragraphs, and I mean, it was basically the internet format, which I wasn't happy with either. But again, I didn't have a lot of choice at the time. So after the first book came out, and I sold a good number of them, a lot of them at Hastings and places like that. I brought him the second book, and he wouldn't publish it. And that's a long story, but the short version is that he didn't believe that the premise would be something people would read because there's a child in danger. Now the child, everything that happens to the child other than a little tension happens off screen, but he didn't want to publish it. And so I said, all right, well, I'm still going to publish it, so I'll go to a different publisher. So imagine that you publish book one with one publisher, and now you're going to another publisher for book two. It was kind of weird. But I did find a publisher, and called Aisling Press, which was another one book wonder. They overextended it and ended up being pretty much done after that book. So actually, I think I'm going to do this a little differently. Eventually, you guys have mentioned Russ Davis. Eventually, this series got to Grey Dog Press, and Russ republished the first two books, published the third book and the fourth book. And the series was there in hardback or in paperback with Grey Dog Press until they discontinued their fiction line and went back to what they were doing. So when Russ made a copy, this is what he did. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that's not the right one. Here it was all prepared, and no. Here we go. This is the one that Russ made in 2010. And again, I told him I want an iconic Spokane, visual, a landmark or something. And I think everybody knows what bridge that is and can see the landmark there. And he also made this badge, which is an old Spokane police badge with River City instead of Spokane, and a different seal that Russ created, because you can't use the state seal. You get in a lot of trouble. And I didn't want to get into a lot of trouble. So I really like this. Russ did a good job. But when I eventually, when they discontinued that line, and he never did publish ebooks anyway, I wanted to change it up a little bit to match up better with books later on in the series. And that was the other one that you saw, which my friend Eric Beatner did. And it's a variation, right? You can see. I did want to have it say that it was the first book in the series. And I wanted it to jump off, because most of my sales, and I don't know if it's the same with everyone, but most of my sales are digital. They're on Kindle or whatever. And the thumbnail's not that big. It's a little different than somebody picking up a paperback and looking at it. So having the bigger lettering really made a difference. So that was the first book. I already kind of told you what happened with the second book. I went with Aisling Press. They did kind of a neat book here. This was done by a local artist there in Spokane in 2007. And it's a little girl's kidnapped in this book, and so you can kind of see where you have the iconic bridge, which the Post Street Bridge also plays a role in the story, the badge once again, and the kind of the mysterious girl. I really like this cover, and I thought she did a great job. We couldn't get the rights to it, however, when Russ republished the series, and so because the Post Street Bridge was a big part of things. He went with this cover. Now, this is the only book cover I can honestly say I've ever had that I absolutely despise. So, and it's not that it doesn't look good in terms of it's a nice picture, and it's not that something pretty major in the story doesn't happen on that bridge, but I just didn't care for it. It just didn't grab me. But again, you know, you can push the publisher, even a small publisher, only so far. And Russ was so agreeable about so many things that I just didn't have the heart to draw a line in the sand over it. Later, when I published it myself after Russ and Grey Dog Press stopped with their line, I had it done completely differently. Once again, the bigger print, as you can see, a little darker tone. This is probably one of the 2 darkest out of the 7. And so, and this was again by a friend of mine, Eric Beatner, who's also a writer and a television editor. This is kind of a side gig that he does for about 4 or 5 of us. So that was the second book in the series. You can kind of see how it evolved. The rest of them did not evolve nearly as much. When Russ did the third book, Beneath the Weeping Sky, he used this photograph. I love this photograph. The third book is about a serial rapist. And there's a very long scene, a very pivotal scene midway through the book that takes place in Riverfront Park when they're doing a decoy, trying to catch the guy. You know, the rain obviously has fallen, or the sprinklers, I don't know, but either way, I'm going to say rain because it works better for my book. So I thought he did a fantastic job, and this is something that I wanted to keep pretty close to when we did the reboot after the changeover. And so Eric used the same photo and just adjusted it. Again, the bigger font size, point size, but still the same photograph. And like I said, I like that. Of all the ones of the first 3 that Russ did, I think I like that one the best. So then the first book that the next book that they published there was the 4th book, And Every Man Has to Die, and they went a completely different direction. Now, I love this cover, and it was kind of pushed by Andrew Corder, or some of you may know him as Marcus Corder, who was the managing editor there when they were a publishing company. And the only thing I didn't like about it was thematically, it was an oddball. It didn't fit the other books in the series. And so as a standalone, I would have been thrilled with this. And I was, I mean, I still loved it, but it didn't fit the series. And so when I rebooted with my own, with Eric, we went a completely different direction. And this is the cover that we came up with there. So again, you can see the large print, the badge is always present. This is not a Spokane. This is kind of one of the first times it's not been a Spokane cityscape. But given the title and some of the things that happen in the book, sun going down over a cityscape over a bridge, which bridges are kind of a theme in the covers, seemed like a good fit. But that is a beautiful cover. They did a great job with it. All right, so the last 3 in the series, 5, 6, and 7, were just bam, bam, bam. Eric did this one. This takes place in the winter time. Actually, it takes place in December of 1999, right there up against Y2K. It's a plot point in the book, actually. The only thing I had him change is, as you can see, the placement, a little bit of placement there. And so that's, and I also had him shade the color a little bit to make it stand out, because it was just straight white, and it looked like somebody went into, you know, photo app and just selected text and typed it in, and it just needed to pop a little bit more. So you can kind of see it here. It was a little whiter. The 6th book, I found a cover that I really, or a scene that or a photo I really liked. And although the title, or although the setting is kind of against the backdrop of a school shooting, I just love this photo, and when the book ends, people will get the cover. They'll understand the cover when the book ends. It's kind of there's a few things that happen on a park bench. They're not big things people may not notice, but if they start thinking about it, they'll realize why it's that way. I just had him adjust it slightly, show a little bit more of the scene, make the conjunctions, or I think that's the right part of speech, a little smaller. And other than that, there you go. So then the new one that's coming out in November is this one here, Dirty Little Town. And this is also a photo that I found that I really liked. This takes place, it actually starts in the summer, but it ends in October. So it's not really winter, but we're, it's cold. Okay. And so he actually photoshopped in the police cars. You can't tell. I mean, maybe a professional graphic artist who blows it up really big could tell, maybe, but I mean, just the lighting and everything, it works so well. So I'm very pleased with it. It might be my favorite one, but then of course the newest one is always our favorite, isn't it? So that's the series. I thought I'd share real briefly just some different series. Oh wait, here's one. Obviously you guys probably do this too. You go into the program, pop it in, get the 3D copy of the book. I just always think that looks pretty sharp, and it's worth doing for certain presentations. Okay, so I have a series called the Anya series. These covers here were done by Zach McCain, who is a phenomenal graphic artist. I wish I had a clearer one. This is a little blurry, so I don't know that it really shows the detail that he put into it. It's got that weathered, sort of battered paperback look you can see in the edges here and so forth. He's just did a fantastic job on these covers, and he's my favorite cover guy. Unfortunately, he's hardly doing any, and only for existing clients, and that's if you're lucky. So I'm having to use other people for some projects, but he just did a great job. I love these covers. Another series called the Bricks and Cam Job series that I wrote with Eric Bietner, but he didn't do these covers. A Swedish guy did. I'm spacing on his name. I'll think of it in a second. He did these, and obviously you can see that really it's the same cover with just different colors right there. But it works. It's a couple of hitmen. It's a dark comedy action sort of book, and so this really caught the tone of it really well. Just a couple more here. Here's the badge that, by the way, that Russ made. You can see that he made a waterfall here in the crest, which I thought was pretty cool, and I've used it extensively since then. So pretty awesome work, like he did for many of you. He's done some good stuff here for me. So this was a book that was published in about 2010. It's about a ex-cop who is part of a vigilante squad that goes after people who slip through the cracks in the justice system. And this was done by a guy named Carl Graves, who was the guy who did all of Joe Conrath's covers. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Joe Conrath, if you're a newer author, or I mean, I go back and read the blogs, and I've been reading his blog since about 2005. It's called A Newbie's Guide to Publishing. It's got some interesting ideas. Some of them will be dated because of technology and other changes, but he's got some pretty cool ideas. He's one of the first people to really truly embrace self-publishing after being a traditionally published mid-list author. So Carl Graves did this, and I liked it. I thought it was cool, but it really didn't fit. I mean, that I described what the story was about to you, and when you look at this, is that the idea that you get? This was one of the first books that I commissioned the cover myself, and so I kind of settled for it because it looked cool, but it wasn't a really good fit. And so redid it in 2018. I actually had Zach do it, and this is the cover now. So, you know, it fits a lot better what the book is about. And you can really see the titles there. All right, last one. I just want to show you what you can get on Fiverr. Believe it or not, I commissioned this. It's a simple cover. This is a comedy, dark comedy slash sort of mystery, but mostly it's a dark comedy about 5 college friends, and 4 of them decide that this one here, Tanner Fritz, needs to die because he stole his wife and, you know, stole his money and all this other stuff. And they try to kill him in a bunch of different ways and fail miserably. And highbrow, lowbrow humor, all that kind of stuff. When I went on Fiverr, which obviously you're taking your life in your hands there, you got to be careful, but you can look at what people's work looks like. They're not going to charge you $5 for a cover like this, but I think at the end of the day, this was like $70, and I got to, you know, that's with revisions. Pretty inexpensive, and that included the full spread for the paperback as well. So Fiverr's an option for that kind of thing if you are looking to get something that looks pretty decent and is still kind of inexpensive. So I tried to burn through that as fast as I could. That's all I've got.
Wonderful. I think you need to hit I can't do it. You have to do the stop screen share at the top. You see it up there, Frank? There you go. Well, that was great, gang. I think you can, if people want to unmute, we could throw out at this point questions. We've got just a few minutes. What I would say is maybe if you ask questions, make comments, and then if people have to leave, you know, just whatever, just kind of say, I gotta go, and you can leave. But otherwise, those that want to stick around for just a few minutes and ask a few questions, that's cool too. I wanted to point out a few things that I noticed, and I'm going to pull up a file too that I loaded earlier that just shows some miscellaneous covers. These are covers that, let's see, Frank, I still think you're on there. I've got to close a few things we're doing. And how'd that get up there? Oh, why is that doing that to me? Close that. Okay, what I have here is just a few covers that I pulled. This one, Gail, is now in California, but this is a romance book that she did and released a few years ago. And you can see she did it under Aurora Dawning was the name of her author, that her line that she used. Murder at Manitou, Chris Beaker has another book coming out next year. They're going to be focused. She's your competition, Frank. These are murders and things that take place in Spokane. A Man's Passion. Jerry sent this cover to me, one he's had out. Let's see. This one before we had Tori Element, that's his fake name too. He came and talked about his sci-fi stuff. And then recently, Butcher Baker, Candlestick Taker. This is a historic novel about Spokane. And so you can see kind of the tones of these different things because, and let me see if I can get my screen back. Come on, people, let me back in. Because all I can say, oh, there, that's what I can do. Come on. Gosh, oh, no wonder. Forgive me for that. I'm a little, haven't done it before. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was a little bit that I noticed. Notice how you hear the word branding a lot. And it's not necessarily that important in terms of book covers when you're writing writing standalone novels, you don't really want them connected, but boy, when you're doing series, I think you can see that anybody doing a series here wanted to make sure that there was something about the cover that told you this is part of a series, that people could recognize it on the shelf. It does matter, because people will come into the store and they'll be looking for somebody's books or other, and they will quickly see it if they're on the shelf under their name, or if they're laying on a table or a display or anything like that. That series branding is going to stand out. So I like what Frank was showing, and also Dave earlier with the ships. And then you had that banner across the top, Dave, and that is a branding thing that you can do. And Dave, or Frank, with the badge, and of course with the layout, I mean, the way the picture is every time, but especially with that badge, that's something else that brands that series. And it's just readers appreciate or need sometimes when there's 1,000 covers in front of them in a store. It helps them to have these things stand out. And everybody else has got yourselves muted. You don't have to be, if you want to, speak up.
I'm not on mute. Haha.
But everybody get your stuff typed in over here in the chat. If you have a website to go to, next month I will mention that I'm going to talk about websites, and I will be hitting Frank up again and a few other folks to, and really all I'm going to do then, I think, is give you a list before the event of the various websites that you might be able to visit. Then I will bring them up and show them, and I'm going to ask questions of the website owners. That'll be just 2 or 3 questions, and in each case I'll share that with you. But I hate to keep going to Frank all the time, but your stuff is so good, Frank, and it stands out, and I like to use you for these things, and you're a pal. I appreciate it. But anybody have any questions?
Happy to help.
Erin.
Yeah, I have a question. This would go to anyone. What do you think makes it stand out more? Do you think it would be, well, in your case, Frank, you've published a lot of books. Have you noticed a difference between using one font versus another font? Like you were saying, oh, I like this font better. Did you notice though it sells better if the font is larger, or if it's orange, or if it's in a certain location of the cover? Because I've noticed this, they were all different looking.
Yeah, I mean, I can't point to one thing and isolate it, I guess, and say, well, this sells better because the print is in red and not yellow or something. I haven't done an A/B comparison or anything like that to be able to say. So I guess I'm kind of flying the same way you are, just using common sense and best guess. It seems to me that if you're, for me, being most of it's digital and the thumbnail is small, it was important where I could to have larger title, even if the author name was smaller, it didn't matter to me as much, but the larger title so that people could see it, but it can't be too large to obstruct, what the cover looks like either. So it's a balance, I think.
Gotcha. Cool.
Anybody else got a question for our presenters?
I saw somebody was asking about Kindle Creations tool. Is anybody else using that for drawing? Is anybody else here? I know, Dave, you're an artist. What do you use for drawing? Are you just you're just painting it? Is that
I just paint and then put it in the scanner.
Okay. All righty then. I'm going to try for the first time a new program called Humble Bumble. And I'm interested to see how that works out. It will be the first time using an actual, like a Wacom to put it on a screen, but I do
I
like
used
good
Kindle
old fashioned.
Create, Aaron, for a it's not a graphic novel. It's only like 9 pages long, so I guess it's a graphic story.
Mhm.
I didn't do the artwork, but I got the artwork as a as a JPEG essentially, and so I used Kindle Create for comics to put that together for the digital version, and that was an interesting. I don't know if I liked it or not, to be honest with you. It's hard. There's some things I liked about it and some things I didn't.
Gotcha. Okay. So it kind of gave you some images for you to choose from and mess with.
Well, I had the image. It was a matter of getting it to, to fit right, and
Gotcha.
to track correctly, and let you adjust the panel sizes, and it'll show you the whole page,
Mhm.
or if, depending on the Kindle that you have or the viewer that you have, you can elect to go panel by panel, and for that to function when you do the setup, you have to tell it this is panel 1, this is panel 2, and set the margins for
Gotcha.
each panel. And how those kind of stories have overlapping panels at times and stuff, and so it's just, I mean, I got through it. I haven't been able to view it outside of that program to see if it turned out, so hopefully it doesn't suck. Hopefully it's working for those people that are trying to use it that way. So
Awesome. Awesome.
Frank, I'm just about to send you an email with my contact info. And I have a book that's about the capital punishment. It's a novel. And maybe someone in town here that's maybe retired attorney, or you have some contacts, that there's a lot of legalities with the novel that I'd like someone to look it over and point out where I'm wrong, something like that. So I don't know if you got contacts or suggestions. So I'll send you that email in a couple minutes. Thanks.
I was going to mention that Patricia couldn't be here tonight, or the kids got sick, and she uses Canva for her layouts. Canva, Canva. And I use Canva to put together a lot of my posts that I use in social media. And if you have better skill than I do, you can make it look even better. But I do okay with it. But it's a great program, and I use it. I don't have to pay anything for it because I'm not using the complicated version. But and I think Christy couldn't be here tonight. Steve, you worked with her on your artwork and stuff, right? Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, I did, and she's actually she's functioning as a book coach, and she has, I think, 19 clients at this point, and various stages of publishing at this point. But yeah, she's the one that put together the one that's right behind me right now, which is the Mentu, the Nubian. So yeah, and I found interesting, Dave, your comments around the ships, etc. Sinan of Kira and Mentu the Nubian, and the one that I'm working on now, which is kind of a prequel sequel to the two of them, are heavily involved in the shipping. It's merchant marine, ancient Greece, around 600 BC. And so I was able to find some pretty interesting graphics that I could use around that. But yeah.
Very cool.
And there's a message in the chat, I think referencing Mark, referencing your need for legal advice, and Clarissa put something in there about not only a retired attorney, but you could probably utilize the county law library for legal resources if you haven't been down that road already. So that's something to keep in mind. There's a lot of resources people can go to for things like that they may need. And Kathy, you're unmuted. Did you have a comment to make about or a question or anything or?
No, I don't. And actually I need to get going, but I appreciate the session. It was really interesting and informative.
Thank you.
So thank
I'm
you.
going to
Thanks
be
for
putting
doing it.
these covers on as much social media as I can. I'll be using Canva to do some layups. So I assume I have permission to show people your work. We'll stop it for going, yeah, go for it. So I will do everything that I can to help you. You guys have been a great help to me tonight. I appreciate it. And I've recorded and still recording, and we'll have this up at YouTube soon. November newsletter, I'll send out the link to that so people can go online that weren't able to be here and they can check out what you have to say. So thanks very much. Again, I appreciate it. Beth, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry to have missed the bulk, but coming in late, I really appreciated what everyone had to say. And I especially want to emphasize the importance of connecting your cover to the genre and the readers you're trying to reach. I just want to, I can't show you everything. I wish I had more skills, but this is my old cover for the 7th tapestry. It's about a missing tapestry from the 14th century. This is an art crime mystery. Does that speak to you about a murder, a mystery, an art crime? No. So I have to tell you that, yes, I did reach out to Fiverr and found a wonderful artist, and I have a new cover. It's already uploaded on Amazon, but I am not sophisticated enough to be able to show it to you here and now. So you could go look it up on Amazon. But the new cover has a dynamic pair of detectives, and it says Art Crimes Mystery as part of the title. And I feel like I'm reaching out to the readers who really do like to read mysteries. So that earlier discussion about genre, reader, and cover art is really an important one. And thank you. Sorry for being late.
What's the title?
The 7th tapestry.
Getting notes
Everyone's
here.
book seems so interesting.
I'm getting notes in the chat. Now, I will remind you that there's down below at the bottom of the chat. Can you see on the right-hand side 3 dots? If you hover on that, it says more. And you can actually hit the first one up above the dark that says save chat. And that will give you a copy on your computer. Oh, goody. Thank you. We're screen sharing here.
Hey.
7th tapestry. Good for you, Frank. Thank you.
So is that better? Is it better than this one?
Yes.
I think so. And Frank had mentioned cost. My new cover cost me $35.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I keep hitting save chat because it'll just keep overwriting what gets saved. So, and Tabitha's having to go. Anybody else have to leave? Just go ahead. We appreciate you being here and helping. Thank you so much. I will be showing you stuff online. I will, yada, yada, yada. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Linda.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
All. Bye.
All right.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, same here, Beth. I always wait till everybody else leaves before I shut her down.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks for inviting me, Linda.
Thanks, Erin. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, me too.
And Carissa and Dan, we don't see you, but you were here and you helped out. I appreciate that. Dave, Fred, and I'll get your message and I'll be able to pull your stuff, Fred. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry I suddenly disappeared. The whole computer, just right after Frank finished, just disappeared.
Oh,
Everything was totally out. And I had to come crawling back in from zero. It was bizarre.
well, I'm glad it popped up right above with him and said that you were there trying to get in. So it worked.
Yeah, it took a while.
Well, I finally found the leave button on the lower right-hand corner, so I'm
There
going to
you
say
go.
good night,
Okay,
everyone.
bye,
Yeah.
Beth. Thank
Me
you.
too. I'll
See
see
you.
you guys later.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye, Erin.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Dan.